Oh yeah, here we go. Are you ready to party? Get a little wild. Get ready, because tonight we're talking about redrawing Oregon's congressional districts. Huh? What's that? Not exciting, like at all? Well, don't worry, because it is to Oregon's candidates for Secretary of State.
You said this quote, "The Audits Committee is one of my favorite places."
And there's a huge difference between saying 500,000 Oregonians had to evacuate from fires and 500,000 Oregonians lived in evacuation zones. Except, apparently, to the head of Oregon's Office of Emergency Management.
It's a little bit of splitting hairs, I suppose, but...
I got your letter.
And as the saying goes, neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stay these couriers from the swift completion of their appointed rounds. But what about wildfires? We put the Postal Service to the test. Here's the story.
Yes, Paula, I do dress myself, and no, my jackets are not... Oh. Hi. Sorry, I was just... Quick viewer email, returning one. I do read all of them, all right? I respond to as many as I can. Someone with the team here on the story will always write you back, so keep those emails coming. If you have something I think you think I should know, fashion advice or otherwise, reach out, email us at thestory@kgw.com. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram, and use Twitter and the hashtag #HeyDan. I'm Dan Haggerty. Welcome to The Story. And let's get right to the big story tonight with just 47 days from the election. I say just 47 days because time flies, doesn't it? And ballots actually going to be mailed out next month. We want to make sure everyone knows what they're going to be voting on. And a huge race in Oregon is for Secretary of State, who is second in line to the governor. We don't have a lieutenant governor here, so this job is a biggie. Two state senators, Republican Kim Thatcher and Democrat Shemia Fagan. They are on the ballot. Thatcher represents parts of the Willamette Valley between Hillsborough and Kaiser. She's been in the Senate since 2015 and the State House for 10 years before that. Fagan's been a senator since last year, representing part of East Portland, and before that she spent 4 years in the House. Now we're going to hear from both of them in just a minute, but first I kind of want to talk about what the Secretary of State actually does, because as powerful as that position is, it sometimes isn't that obvious what the responsibilities are, maybe compared to what you know about the governor or state lawmakers, people like that. The Secretary of State is in charge of these 4 areas: registering businesses and keeping public records on them, performing audits on government agencies, housing state archives, and maybe arguably the most important job that they do is overseeing state elections, like registering voters and keeping track of official results. But there is one lesser known area that they sometimes deal with, and that's redistricting. See, every 10 years, Oregon redraws its legislative and congressional districts based on the new census population numbers, and that's going to happen next year since the census is being taken this year. Now, at first, it is up to the state legislators to redraw the lines, but sometimes they can't, come to a conclusion on what to do. They can't do it, and then it goes to the Secretary of State to redraw the legislative districts. Now, it's actually the congressional districts are redrawn by a judicial panel appointed by our Chief Justice, and that is actually what ends up happening most of the time, because you know how often lawmakers can agree. Though I will give them this, I'll give them credit on this. 10 years ago, the legislature did manage to come up with a redistricting plan that the governor approved. But in each of the 5 decades before that, lawmakers either couldn't reach an agreement or their plan was rejected, either by the governor or the Supreme Court. And this time it is even less likely lawmakers will be able to get it done because of a deadline that they probably won't meet. They have until July 1st to redraw a new map. But because of the pandemic, the census has been delayed this year, so there's concerns about lawmakers getting the new population data in time. In fact, the Census Bureau has asked Congress to move their deadline to reporting that population data to July 31st, but there's still no guarantee. So there is a definite possibility our new Secretary of State will have to redraw the legislative map. And just to add another little wrinkle to everything, Oregon is expected to add a new seat in Congress based on our population growth. All right, so did you get all that? Feel free to rewind on YouTube if you have to. Now let's get to my conversations with both Senators Thatcher and Fagan. Both of them assured me today if they have to redraw the lines, they're not going to sit down with a map and a Sharpie, but instead they're going to bring in an independent panel to create the new district lines. But both have different opinions about where we stand now in terms of how Oregonians are represented.
It doesn't reflect the state. We have a much more purple state than what would be indicated by looking at what is in Salem, which is pretty dark blue right now.
You think the lines are drawn now to favor Democrats?
I do, yes.
So you think it needs to be evened out?
No, I'm not looking to even it out. I'm just looking to do it right. I have Salem and Kaiser school district, but I only have Kaiser in my district, my legislative district. I have Wilsonville, West Lynn schools in my district, but I only have Wilsonville, no West Lynn. I have Newburgh. I don't have any Dundee. There's Newburgh, Dundee. I mean, just things like that, where there are already some boundary lines that set communities together, and that has not been very well looked at.
I mean, I don't consider Oregon red or blue or purple. I grew up in Wasco County in a Republican household, but the district lines do show, like, Oregonians have voted for a majority of Democrats, and a majority of Democrats hold the legislative seats. If I'm involved in redistricting, I will be outsourcing that to an independent commission that meets our diversity and equity goals to make sure that everyone in Oregon is represented, and which is what's failed in California when they did their independent redistricting. They've had it not meet their diversity and representation goals. So I, as a Secretary of State, even as a Democrat, I won't be drawing those lines. I will be using an independent commission model, but one that's based in equity.
Now, as we count down the days to the election, we're going to have more one-on-one interviews with candidates who are on the ballot, and we're going to also make sure to kind of dive pretty deeply into the measures and initiatives that you're going to be voting on. But if you have questions, please let us know. We love this stuff. Now, as we're talking about elections in Oregon, we can't avoid talking about mail. And the Postal Service has been a huge focal point this year in the election season. Images like these went viral, showing crews removing mailboxes from North Portland. The Postmaster General briefly ordered mail sorting equipment removed from post offices. And President Trump discussed withholding funding from the Postal Service over mail-in voting. In fact, just today, a federal judge in Eastern Washington said it's going to block the recent changes made by the President and the Postmaster General that threatened to slow down mail delivery. Judge Stanley Bastain said the government was, quote, involved in a politically motivated attack on the efficiency of the Postal Service. All right, it's got us a lot of us all thinking, was mail delivery, though, actually impacted through all of this back and forth? So Kyla Boshi bought some stamps and put it to the test.
There's been a lot of talk lately about our mail and worries about delayed prescriptions, late bills, undelivered packages, and of course, mail-in ballots.
Tonight, the escalating battle over the U.S. Post Office.
And the stakes are high, Savannah, with potential delivery delays.
In Portland, Oregon, a postal employee says these sorting machines were in working condition before being decommissioned in the past 2 weeks.
With so many people loudly voicing their frustration, we decided to test the system and track the mail. So for the past month, I've been sending letters to friends, family, and coworkers every week, 20 different people in all. The letters are sent from the same post office in Portland. Most were sent to people living in the Portland metro area, but I also mailed letters to others living all across the country. Every week, the recipients let me know when they arrived.
Kyle, I got your letter.
Overall, I found delivery was pretty consistent. Letters sent in town, meaning the Portland-Vancouver metro area, took about 2 to 3 days. Letters sent out of town, including the Midwest and East Coast, landed in mailboxes within 4 to 5 days. The only outlier was an address in the Portland suburb of Damascus, where a couple letters took almost a week to be delivered. But apparently, my coworker has experienced delays before.
I've had packages put in the wrong mailbox. I've gotten other people's mail. It's not a new issue. It's improved, but it's not a new issue.
After 5 weeks of testing, I found the mail to be reliable and generally consistent. But our survey is clearly far from scientific, so we figured better go to the experts. Angelo Anagnostopoulos is Vice President of Postal Affairs for Gray Hair Software.
We track billions and billions of pieces of mail for all of the largest mailers in the world.
According to Gray Hair data, first-class mail is averaging 4.1 days to deliver. That's better than last year.
We're actually getting slightly better performance.
Keep in mind, there's less mail in the system because of the coronavirus pandemic. And there certainly are delays, like when postal workers are out sick with COVID, or when natural disasters strike, like hurricanes or wildfires. But on average, those disruptions don't slow the postal network that much.
Overall, the most impact that we're seeing is about a day to 2 days tops in delay of mail right now.
The mail tracking data showed a brief slowdown late this summer after cost-cutting measures at the U.S. Postal Service, like reductions in transportation and overtime. but things are back to normal after those operational changes were rescinded.
I don't anticipate any large issues between now and the end of the year.
With so much riding on reliable mail service, especially this fall, experts suggest any glitch could change public perception. So just know we're testing it. And so far, the mail is being delivered on time without major disruption.
Okay, Kyle Aboshi joining us now. So will ballots be treated any differently by the people delivering them, the postal workers?
Well, the Postal Service has said nationwide it'll prioritize election mail. Also, Oregon ballots, as you know, they're clearly marked, and postal workers, they know that. They recognize, listen, this envelope is important. It's a ballot. And so election officials here locally say they've been assured, listen, postal workers will take special care to ensure they're delivered on a timely manner.
Yeah, they definitely stand out in a stack of mail, but still people are sensitive about their mail right now. There are ways that you can kind of follow along, though, to make sure that your vote's counted.
Yeah, and some of this technology is pretty cool. So in many counties, including Multnomah County, for example, you can sign up to track your ballot. And basically, it gives you a text message, an email, some type of notification that your ballot has been sent to you. Then when you fill it out and return it, it notifies you again once they've received it, which is great. Also, a new technology that I found really cool, didn't know about until I started doing this story, was informed delivery. You can sign up for this online. Again, informed delivery. Basically, you get a digital preview of your mail. So every day now, I get an email from the Postal Service that gives me an image of all the mail that's going to be in my mailbox or my doorstep later on that day, along with alerts about packages, which is really helpful. And here's the best thing of all, it's totally free.
News to me, man. That's interesting. Thanks, Kyle. Hey, we want to get a quick shout out to a group of mostly volunteer firefighters with the Idana Detroit Fire District on Labor Day. Right as the winds were starting to kick up these fires, 10 of them worked with the Forest Service to rescue 81 people trapped at Detroit Lake. They don't like to be called heroes, which is exactly what heroes say. In fact, I think first responders might be the worst at taking praise of all time, but we're going to ignore that and continue to give you praise. We want to brag about these people who are out there fighting for us, fighting fires, or helping in any way with everything everyone's going through. So if you have somebody in your life that you think we should brag about a little bit, send us a picture, tell us a little bit about them. We want to give them a shout out, and you can do that by sending them to the hashtag HeyDan or emailing us at thestory@kgw.com.
I look to the left and there's literally a mountain on fire.
One that they escaped. We'll tell you how, from an island with one way in and one way out. Welcome back to The Story. So it's been about a week now without a breath of fresh air. Kind of makes you go a little nuts, doesn't it? Hopefully things will change this weekend. In fact, they may be changing as we speak right now. We want to bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino to talk about this weather, kind of what we're seeing out there right now, Matt, and how it could impact this dreary, smoky life that we're all living in right now.
Yeah, Dan, it is changing right now, and it's changing pretty rapidly. I want to show you Doppler radar because it's amazing to watch these storms develop. We've got a lot of thunderstorms developing over the Coast Range right now, which is a little farther west than we expected. We were thinking maybe it'd be on the other side of the Willamette Valley, but it's beginning to happen there too. So look at this. Look at all those lightning strikes now to the west of Salem, to the west of Eugene, and they're moving north and they are racing probably about 35, 40 miles an hour. We'll zoom in on those. So that's good. We're getting rain there, but also notice we're getting rain from these cells over on the east side of the Cascades too, which is great. And the rainfall rates in here are going to be somewhat impressive. If I zip in on that, try to capture where it's raining the hardest. See, that's over an inch an hour at that location. Now, that storm won't linger over that one spot for an hour, so they won't get an inch of rain right there. But we could see these rainfall rates go up even higher in the next several hours here. So again, this is going to be a situation where they really are moving quickly. Here are some other storms now east of Salem. I'll zip on over here. We had some activity up around Yamhill County that's now moved into northwestern Washington County, out by the Sunset Highway. There could be a few sprinkles there, but the heavier storms down here to the west of Eugene and Salem right now, and they will continue to march on off quickly to the north. As I put this through its paces, you can see that there. Also visible on the satellite imagery too, you can see how these storms develop just like this. Watch this. You see just these clouds absolutely developing out of thin air. Some nice reflectivity there as the light angle is changing just a bit. So we are beginning to see changes at ground level too. We'll start at Newport, where it's been very foggy. That fog is starting to burn off now. which is great to see. Over at the reserve, we've seen a peak or two at the sun. Our air quality is still pretty nasty right now, but things will be improving as we go into the evening hours. So again, it is going to be a process, but it has begun with those storms, and we'll need to keep an eye on those storms because some of those could actually become severe tonight. And that's why we've got that flash flood watch out for areas east of the Cascades. All right, let's talk air quality for just a bit. We are now, see the red dots? That's improvement. That's merely unhealthy air. Not very unhealthy, not hazardous. So that's an improvement from where we've been. We still lead the list of world major cities as the worst air in the world, but Seattle's dropped off and Vancouver's dropped on down to 5th. There's the list, the top 10 list, still dominated by the Northwest, but this is the air quality stations in Portland, and they're all fairly close to each other. We had a question saying, hey, what's the best one in Portland? It just depends on where you live. And they changed, Dan. They're not always exactly the same because subtle drifts of the wind, the smoke density changes from location to location. So again, they're all in the same ballpark, but the bottom line is things are beginning to improve, and they may improve quickly tonight.
What about those lightning strikes you were showing us? Any concern there?
There is a concern with lightning, although with these storms, not as much. And here's the reason why. Some thunderstorms have different rainfall rates. Some are very dry. We get a lot of dry thunderstorms in the Northwest in the summertime. And those are the ones that are really dangerous as far as starting new wildfires. These storms are not dry. They're really juiced up. They got a lot of moisture to work with. So the odds are, if we get lightning strikes, it's going to happen where it's raining or has been raining. So I'm not so concerned about lightning strikes. I am concerned about the winds. We can get very strong, very erratic winds around these storms. And if some of those winds hit our existing fires, that could be problematic. Right. We may also get some large hail, too. So it's going to be an active night.
Good to hear they're juiced up, though. We needed some juiced up.
That's right.
Storms moving through here, man. Thanks. Appreciate it, Matt. So there has been, and there was definitely a lot of confusion when the fires first started to roar. A lot of confusion was coming from inside the state's own Office of Emergency Response, who said incorrectly that 500,000 Oregonians were under level 3 evacuation orders at one point last week. And when a lot of journalists kind of started to point out that that seemed to be a little high, that number, they actually doubled down and said, no, that's right. Then, of course, that number made it to the national news, right? The front pages of the New York Times and the like. And of course, it did turn out to be wrong. It was 500,000 Oregonians were under some sort of evacuation level, between 1, 2, or 3. But 500,000 Oregonians did not leave their home all at once. Big difference, right? I mean, seems like it to me. Then again, what do I know? Apparently not as much as the director of Oregon's Office of Emergency Management, who said this in an interview with Think Out Loud on OPB, and we really think it's worth your time.
It's a little bit of splitting hairs, I suppose, but we had over 500,000 people that were on some level of evacuation notice, either level 1, which is get ready, meaning you may need to leave your house at a moment's notice. Level 2, which means even further urgency is required, and if you haven't already loaded your go kit in your vehicle or made arrangements to evacuate your house, you need to do so now. And then level 3, which is go. Whatever you've got on you, that's what you're taking with you. You need to get out of your home, the community, get to safety immediately. So to downplay the fact that 500,000 people were being impacted and preparing to evacuate, again, I think it's splitting hairs. There were 500,000 people that had uncertainty as to whether or not their homes were going to be destroyed by fire. And further, we had 50,000 people at one point that were under level 3 evacuations. And Dave, I saw the comment that said it wasn't 500,000 people that were forced out of their home. It was only 50,000 people. And I want to think about that for a minute. It was put in writing, only 50,000 people were forced out of their homes. That's an incredible number, and a number that we've never seen in Oregon. And I think that shows the level of urgency that these fires created and the stress that was put on first responders, 911 dispatchers to ensure we would get people to safety.
You can hear the entire interview on opb.org. And again, we think it's worth your time. Now, we keep hearing stories from these fires that frankly defy belief. I mean, yesterday we shared one with you. We heard about a dam operator who manned the Detroit Dam by himself while fire raged all around him. You can find that on our YouTube page. Today we got another story for you. This one of a dentist from Lake Oswego who was spending Labor Day with her family on an island in Lane County when that wind started to whistle and blow and the flames started to grow. There was one way in and one way out. Here's Nina Melhoff.
Labor Day night, winds howled, trees falling everywhere in the pitch black. Fire on both sides of the Mackenzie Highway, 126. This is video from a firefighter's dash cam that night. It's exactly what Lisa Strauch of Lake Oswego saw if she would have been calm enough to film it herself.
We've had cabins on the Mackenzie River for 40 years. So my brother and I, we're third generation.
Their cabins are in the town of Rainbow, 45 miles east of Eugene. They own 3 of the 6 or 8 on Dearborn Island. It's a turn off the highway, then over a bridge, surrounded by the Mackenzie River and national forest land. One way on, one way off. And just a stone's throw over the water from the Holiday Farm RV resort and wedding venue. It was a great holiday weekend with the family. Monday morning, her husband left in one car with 2 of the kids. Lisa, her mom, and her 2-year-old son stayed to hang out.
The wind started to pick up around 4. By 6:30, I was videoing the wind, and we were watching trees fall down, mostly cottonwoods. 8 o'clock, power goes out. Again, texting from the neighbors, trees down. Next thing I know, I get a phone call that they have a friend on Mackenzie River Drive that heard an explosion and to hang tight. 10 minutes later, after that conversation, you need to get off the island. Everyone evacuate the island.
Neighbors think that explosion came from an electrical box not too far away. They jumped in the car to get out. But just down from the house, Lisa had to gun it up and over a downed tree, blocking the only bridge off the island.
At about milepost 42, I look to the left, and there's literally a mountain on fire.
Again, this isn't her video, but it is very close to what she saw as she clutched the wheel and was blocked by tree after tree.
The tree was down about 7 cars in front of us, and there was a bunch of civilians, a bunch of guys with trucks and chainsaws trying to, take out the tree. But we're blocked, and we know we're blocked behind us with a down power line. We have a fire on our left a couple miles back, and we have no idea what's going on.
In the daylight, you can see what they were speeding away from. The next towns over of Blue River and Vida. Nothing is left. She made it to Eugene with her son and mom that night by 10:30 p.m.
I had called my husband and said, hey, you need to call 911 in Lake Oswego. You need to tell me what to do. I don't know if I'm going to be holding him. Am I running? Are you coming to get me? How do I get out of this situation? So I have a little bit of acute stress syndrome going on in terms of protecting my family. So it definitely was scary.
Nina Melhoff, KGW News.
Very scary, of course. We have kind of a good development, though, to tell you. Lisa's family found out that after the interview, that while half of the island, the vegetation there did burn up, every single cabin is fine, thanks to defensible space. She says that they'll go back and clean up, make some repairs once they're allowed to. We're going to finish the story next. Email here from Lori Gerritsen. So what about our USPS letter carriers during this hazardous smoke that we have? Were they issued any special masks for this smoke? I don't know, actually. Any letter carriers at home who know the answer to this? Go ahead and write it in. Use that hashtag HeyDan on Twitter. Other people can search that hashtag and see your answer. But I'm curious about it. I think about everybody forced to work outside. I had some food delivered today, and the person pulled up on a bike. They were wearing a gas mask. I guess I wasn't considering people out riding bikes. I thought they'd pull up in a car, but yeah, it's tough for anybody out there. And then I got a tweet from Just a Dog Mom and said, we were giving a tribute to firefighters earlier. We showed a picture, and I said 10 of them. And she said, there are 11 firefighters. Don't forget about the one in the truck. I am sorry, one in the truck. 11 firefighters. I forgive you. I already got a couple of emails tonight. People wanted to pay tribute to the first responders in their lives. Keep doing that. Send us emails to thestory@kgw.com or find us on Twitter with the hashtag HeyDan. We want to hear their stories. Let's brag about them a little. They deserve it. Thanks for being with us tonight. That's the story. See you back here to close out your week tomorrow.